Okay, I think we're good to go. Back at it again, once again, back at it. I find it interesting. I am running some software, an app off my iPad to do the stream, and I'm asking a whole lot of my iPad because I've got this overlay. I've played with a lot of different streaming setups. This one is probably one of my more minimal setups, but it's also one of the easiest, but it is still a bit buggy. So I'm running this app called, I think it's called Camo Studio. Camo Studio, I think they have a more widely known desktop app, but on the iPad, it still works pretty well. And it gives you a lot of cool features. Like you can bring in, obviously, screen share. You can bring in camera. So right now, this is the front-facing camera on my iPad. So, you don't need a whole lot, I guess, is what I'm here to say. I'm using an old VideoMic Pro, like one of the, not the very first gen, but like a second gen VideoMic Pro with an analog connection. It's not even digital, it's not even USB, so. And, we're getting away with it so far. I've had a few issues, but nothing I can't, live with. One, namely being the first one is trying to launch the stream. It seems like I've got to try a couple times before it will connect. And so if I didn't have YouTube Studio running over here on my left, then I would have no idea if it was even connected to my channel. I guess that's the short of it. So what I want to do is just share the stream. So bear with me now that the stream is seemingly up and running. If you have questions about anything today, we'll be talking about Lovable, building things in Lovable. We'll be recapping latest changes to one of the projects I'm working on, which is a Soundscape app. Generates sounds, ambient sounds, and stuff for images, or you can create your own AI image and get sound effects for it, that kind of thing. So it's a project that I don't really have any, I have a bigger vision for it in my head, but I don't really have any, it's not like I'm doing it to, per se, wake up tomorrow and be rich kind of thing. It's a project that I took on because it has a lot of different scope, in terms of its depth. And I feel like I can continue to go deep on a Lovable app as opposed to just cranking out a bunch of, because this is where I find myself. I find myself do I spend my time just building out, mini apps and front end stuff and playing with things and tinkering, or should I try to go deep on one project and just see how far I can push it? And I find myself leaning towards that, which is try to go deep, try to see how far I can push this Lovable thing. Again, from the perspective of somebody that doesn't code. So how deep in the hole can I get without being able to climb back out, I guess, is it's one way to put it. I'm just gonna grab my channel real quick, hold on. And it's not yeah. So again, if you have questions, if you are trying to find me elsewhere, I'm on Twitter. On X, Gray's Reality. So this channel is Gray's Reality if you haven't already subscribed. This is my 4th stream in a row. Hey, I'm streaking. I created an app here. Yesterday I was toying around with the idea. Again, this is one of those single shot prompt style things where I'm like, can you build me a habit, tracker so I can track my streaks and stuff like that. So this is basically a 2-shot prompt or a 1-shot prompt, something like that. Anyways, and it's just something that yesterday I sort of these ideas, they spring in my head, and then I'm like, all right, let's build it out. And then I realized at first what may seem simple, turns into a thing. And I got to a place where I'm like, I don't need this to be a thing. I already have a thing to work on, and I don't need it to be a thing. Also, I think there may be some issues with Lovable at the moment, some technical hiccups. Right now, for instance, on the screen, it took a long time you probably noticed that it took a long time to load that chat session, even though this chat is not even 3 prompts. So that's the extent of this project, which is 3 prompts. I think it started with, I've got this idea for a streak style app, and I wanted to be able to do this and track this, and then it built this thing, and I was like, okay, cool, it seems to work. I can add a new habit, drink coffee, create, and then it shows up on screen. At first I didn't have any way to delete them, and I still there's this issue right now where like there's no delete button. So I told it to add a delete button because when it first created the app, you couldn't delete habits. And I'm like, well, I just don't want these here. And also by default, it generates, because I said I suggested, and again, this has to do with prompting. This was like one of those things where there's no planning into it. I just sort of ad hoc just decided I want to build this thing. And so like when you tell Lovable the scope of it, without a whole lot of information, you just sort of like the idea, then it will sort of do its own thing. And then you kind of have to autocorrect from there. And so it's not really the best approach, I think, to building out in Lovable. I think you should probably have a better sense of what it is that you want to do. But if you're just sort of freestyling it, free-flowing, then it's fine. But it can lead to problems. It can lead to like weird things. So let me, again, just share the channel, because otherwise nobody will know I'm here doing this thing. And it's not like there are a ton of people that probably are in the same lane in terms of like trying to learn this stuff. But if anybody in the event, somebody's, you're trying to learn Lovable, it's probably a great place to do it, because I am in the same boat trying to learn Lovable. So let's copy the link. Let's see if I can get X to cooperate with me this morning. So I'm there. Like I said, if you have any questions, either leave a comment below, or on any of these videos, on any of the previous streams, check those out if you haven't already. I plan to go back and try to update them. So I'll go back to my dashboard here real quick. Another idea. Actually, pause that thought. Let me get this tweet out, and then we can pick up from there. So back to live streaming and building. I like how I just talk while typing. Back to live streaming and building at Lovable things. Back to live streaming. Drinking coffee. Let's just say that. Drinking coffee. And building Lovable things. Okay. Alright, so I'll post that. I think that is on my channel. So again, if you want to connect in any way, feel free to jump on X. If you're not on X here on YouTube, you can just simply leave a comment. Alright, so the tweet is out there in the world. It's in the world for the world to see. Okay, enough of that. Lovable, if you're also looking for a place to learn, and maybe my mic is a little bit hot. It seems like it might be a little bit hot, but I don't know. Let me just turn it down a touch. If you're interested in learning Lovable, there's a few places you can keep up with it. Lovable is doing a whole tutorial series, so jump on their timeline. They're building out an app. I think it's a Spanish tutor translator app. That's probably a great place to learn. Discord. It took me a while to find the Lovable Discord. I don't know if it's because the name is too broad, but they do have a Discord. It's fairly active, so you can jump on there. You can find me there as well, and here on the stream. All right, so another concept I had before we get into project updates and recaps is I noticed that like on my channel, all my live streams are like there's no descriptions. I mean, when I live stream, it just has a preset like title and preset description, and I haven't gone back and updated any of the metadata around it, so it probably makes it difficult to understand like when you look at the streams like what I'm talking about. So yesterday I'm like, well, there's got to be a better way to do this. Like, I don't know how everybody else manages their live streams in terms of like circling back around and updating their content so that it's more findable, more discoverable in like YouTube. But one of the ideas I had was obviously related to Lovable, and I was like, well, why don't we just build out a summarizer transcript bot, like a transcript summarizer bot? And so the way that I was thinking about this and trying to approach this was, and it has my latest video here, so you can kind of see that. So this is very simple. This is, again, is one of those kind of one-shot prompt sort of deals, or a few-shot prompt sort of deals, where I originally had let's just take it from the top, shall we? So I was like, my prompt And again, just so I think what I see commonly in like Q&As is what prompt did you use? Like that seems to be a fairly common question in terms of like fairly common question. Does this not have chat showing up? Okay, whatever. I'll just rely on something else to see my chat. So if you are chatting, I am monitoring. So we can probably find it somewhere. Anyways, what were we talking about? Oh, this project. Oh, prompting. Yes. So prompting. What specifically we should do, or what prompts are we using specifically? So let's just walk through this project real quick. Again, this was a single, sort of a few prompts that got me to this, which is basically sucking in the RSS feed from my YouTube channel. So all that requires is you grab your channel ID. You can find channel ID in your settings in YouTube. And then once you have that, then you can construct the RSS link for it. So it's basically like youtube.com/blah, blah, blah, whatever, and then your channel ID, and then your RSS feed for your channel exists there. From there, then you can grab the YouTube URLs that you need to pull down. And then from here, what I wanted to do was pass it like to, I've been using Assembly AI just because it's cheap and like it doesn't have all the advanced stuff like timestamps. Maybe you can get timestamps and like speaker differentiation or whatever, diarization, whatever it's called. That's probably a possibility, but for now, what I'm doing is I just want the URL. I just want to pass the URL to Assembly AI. I want Assembly AI to give me to go get this transcript, and then I'm going to pass that to him back to OpenAI, and then we can summarize it, right? I'll prompt it to give me right now I'm thinking like action item list, like, what I'm thinking is more like a summary. I probably will build a couple prompts for it. One will be like what I need to update the YouTube channel with. Like, let's go with title. Give me a title for this session, this live stream session. Give me a title, a description, that I can use for the basics. Maybe some metadata like keywords. But then in terms of like, and then of course a summary. So I'll have like a quick summary, maybe like chapter markers, something generally speaking like topics. Because again, I don't know if I've got timestamps in the Assembly AI transcript, which again, I think is probably one of the reasons why it's one of the cheaper options. So it's not perfect. It's not going to do like word for word, like perfect transcriptions, but it'll get the sense. And more importantly for me is like, I thought about this yesterday. I was like, well, I think what I want to do is grab the RSS feed, pull in the YouTube, pass it to Assembly, get the transcript, summarize it with OpenAI so that I can come back, update the, and either automatically do this or update. I feel like the volume's a little hot, but I'm not going to touch it. Update the YouTube videos directly with the descriptions, but I think that's going to require that I have an actual Google API key for YouTube or YouTube API key from Google. So I don't know if I want to get into that. I don't produce enough content for that to be an issue. I'm thinking I can almost just use a backend because here's where I ended up with this project. Like in a few prompts, I quickly realized I can go down another deep hole with this project and not something I really wanted to entertain because I just need it for, like I just need to quickly update my title, description, and then maybe have like something personally for me to keep track of this project. So like a project tracker, because as I'm building features into it, I kind of want to know like log wise, like what I've done, what I built out, what I finished, what I need to do next. And I think I get away with doing that with OpenAI and then prompting like basically action items, tasks, to-dos, change log, whatever, something like that, so that when I'm done with this live stream, I actually can use the content that I produced as a means to keep track of this project. Not this project that's on screen, but the other project that we'll get into, which is a soundscape generator thing. But just quickly here, so I basically said, hey, I'd like to build an app that gets a transcript from the latest YouTube video using Assembly AI and summarizes it using OpenAI. Again, probably not the most spec'd or detailed prompt, which is okay. Again, because sometimes I don't really know what I have in mind, and then once I start seeing it come together, like first pass, first iteration, then it gives me inspiration for my next prompt, and then I can sort of like go from there. So it's kind of like a spring pad into like whatever I'm thinking about next. Bear with me, it's a bit chilly this morning, so there is going to be some background noise, which is basically a heater. But hopefully you can still hear me. And if not, then we'll deal with that on future streams. All right, so it did it. It fetched it. It did something where it couldn't figure out the dependencies. You know, so you'll get these errors with Lovable, but for the most part, you can click here, and then there's a little wrench icon. You click it, it'll try to fix it, and in this case, you know, it'll basically pass it back to the chat, and it'll be like, here's the error, and then it's like, oh, okay, you know, I need to fix this, that, and the other. I still couldn't install it, blah, 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 and then it's like, all right. Also, I don't know if it's an omen thing, but I generally, when I first kick off a project, the last thing I want to see is an error. So it's not the most confidence-inspiring thing to see, but you can pretty easily get past them. You just sort of, and the cool thing about Lovable as well is they don't really charge you to fix it. Like when you click the wrench icon and say try to fix this, you're not using messages, you're not wasting messages, you're kind of, you know. But at some point, you may need to you may need to help it along. But in this case, it figured it out, and I was like, all right, you know, first I was like, why do I still have a blank page? And then it's like, oh, let me do this. And then it got to a place where I'm like, all right, so can we just grab the URLs from the RSS feed? Because I think what I wanted to do was build this, you know, sort of place where you put the input fields in, you know, you guide it, you know, for this app, you go grab the URL. And I'm like, no, I don't want that. I need this to be automated either through back-end process, like using make and automation, or just, I guess, long term or more. If this project was more serious, then it would be, I guess, set up a cron job to check the feed to see if a new video has been posted. If so, pull it down, and then pass, you know, and then send it on its way, and then update this page so that if I come back here, I can click into any of these videos and see the summary, the transcript, the description, and then for now just manually just upload YouTube, like, you know, update the YouTube videos. All right, so it's like we're gonna need, you know, we're gonna do this with OpenAI for summarization, assembly I, and I'm like, all right, well, I want to do it from the URL, and here's, you know, the channel ID, and so it's like, okay, great. Yeah, it's totally possible to do that. Let's do that instead. And so it's like, here's what we'll use. We could do this. We could fetch the feed, and I'm like, yeah, cool. Go ahead and proceed with the changes. RSS-based approach, and it's like, got it. I'll go ahead and do that, and then I think it created the layout, and then I went back and decided, okay, let's just pass this. Let's just pass. Sorry, mic's right here, and I'm still just like OCD about volume and stuff. Like it just, I'm looking at a audio monitor on my iPad, and it's borderline like borderline in the red, which, you know, basically is audio that you don't want to have happening. Where are we? Gallery style arrangement, main project page. Okay, did the grid, so built out the grid. What do you want to talk about? We could do all these things, right? And that's, again, another danger zone, which I think you should probably steer clear from, is like when you have this whole laundry list of stuff that Lovable says we could do, like we could do all these things. I think that's a good time to step back and piece that out. Like, do you really want to do all those things? Because then what's going to happen is it's going to try to like build out and write the code for all those different components or aspects, which could lead to problems again down the road. So I like to use things like, can we just start with the basics first? Can we just start with the basic, you know, let's work out the core thing. Let's make sure it works first, and then we can do whatever we want from there. And then, you know, go crazy and like build out all the other features. So it's like, all right, for now I'll just build the gallery. It broke again. I'm not sure what this error was, some other TypeScript thing, which sent me onto Amazon, and I'm like, maybe I should learn. I think maybe if I'm going to spend all this time in Lovable, maybe I should learn TypeScript. Maybe I should learn. And so, you know, I'm looking at books. I think I'm chatting with GPT, and I'm like, and it's like, you should probably learn JavaScript first. Or I think I was on some threads about TypeScript, and it's like, you should probably learn JavaScript first. And so that's that. Um, so that is that. Let's see, where are we at now? I'm gonna turn this up. I'm sorry, I'm sure the AC, the heater is kicking, pumping right now. All right, so more errors, I guess is what I'm saying. And then it got to a place where it's like, it can't do it because of this, what I come across quite a bit is this cross-origin thing, cross-origin resource sharing. Again, a concept I've never heard of before in my life until I started playing with these kinds of tools. And it happened a lot, you know, whether I was using Lovable or say Bolt, like I was running into the issue with this cross-origin resource sharing thing where I just couldn't fetch things from APIs, which is kind of like, of all the projects I've done so far, like with automation, it's all been built around like APIs and stuff like that, and pulling data down from APIs or whatever. And so I found myself confronted with this situation with this cores thing over and over and over. And I think Bolt implemented a solution where they just enable it. Somehow they just sort of enable it. So in their settings, you can just turn it on. And haven't really pushed, like, I haven't really played with Bolt enough to know if that works well or if it's effective. But on cores, if I see there's a cores issue, it's either going to want to do one of two things. It's going to want to create a proxy for it, usually using a public proxy, which is what it did here. So it's going to use this public proxy. They can be a little bit slow or unreliable or not available. So you kind of run into issues there. Or the next step would be like to build out an edge function in Supabase to deal with the cross-origin thing. And so, again, for projects like this, when I get into here and I'm like, oh, now I got to connect it to Supabase and we got to do all this other stuff. I'm like, all right, well, see, that's going to take a while. Like that, all those integrations and like getting around the cores issues. Right now, what it used to populate this was just use the public, the proxy. So it technically works, right? So it created like this video this live stream that I just launched is here on the screen. You know, it says 11 minutes ago, but it's been a little over that now. But it's here. So it fetched the latest video. It's got this screenshot. It's got the thumbnail. You know, it's got all my previous videos. So yeah, it's grabbing the right data. There's nothing happening, right? So if you click on any of these tiles, these cards, like nothing else happens. And so for me, I'm like, I love, like whether I'm delegating to the bots, right? Get the automation going. I don't want to really have to deal with this. I just want it to update without me getting in here and doing stuff. So I prefer that I do that. And so I was like, hey, can we set it up so the transcripts and summaries are fetched every time a new video is posted? Automation, right? Just make it work for you. And it's like, yeah, we could do that. Let's think about how we can fetch transcripts and summaries, RSS feed, latest videos, storage options. We need to process the video. We need to store the stuff somewhere. We should probably use Supabase. And that's, again, where I sort of was like, and it's like, hey, do you want to talk about this some more? And I'm like, you know what? Not really. Not enough to sort of detract me from the main project, And this was just, like I said, sort of 20 minutes of noodling with this idea. Now I still need to update my videos with the descriptions and get the summaries, but I think I might do something a little bit more basic, and just do this silently behind the scenes, like back end using make.com, set up an automation. I've already Assembly AI. I've already got some other automations that use Assembly AI. It's got the OpenAI integration already. And I can already schedule and monitor the RSS feed. So since I'm only publishing content like once a day on this live stream, I can run it, schedule the make automation for like 24, run it just once a day, check for the latest video, pull the video, send it to Assembly, transcribe it, send me an email or put it in a database somewhere, right? It could be in Notion, it could be in Airtable, it could be in Excel, it could be not Excel, Google Sheets, right? You need a cloud connected thing. I'm sure maybe you could do it with Excel. I don't have a Excel anymore. I'm just used to Google Sheets for everything. So that's that. And I spent about 25 minutes talking about side projects. But that's the thing that you can sort of, what's cool about Lovable. Like you can really sort of in an instant sort of create new projects and try new things. But also, if you're trying to focus, it makes it really difficult because you're like, oh, I got another idea, which can also be beneficial. I'm not going to lie, because this project actually started from my Soundscape project, the one that, you know, I'm day to day going to be working on and trying to, you know, build new stuff, is this one, right? So it's a soundscape generator. You can generate scenes and ambient sounds, right? But this was actually born from a different project, right? So it didn't look like this in its first go. It looked more like, right? So I've got, here's kind of where it started. It was like this mood board thing. I don't even know if this app's gonna load. Yeah, so it started with this kind of concept, right? Where I was like, let's create, you know, I wanted one of those like sound machine type of deals where I can create an app and you know, mix like ambient sounds like rain and fire. And I was like, oh, this is pretty cool. Like this is super clean. Like this is cool. But then I was like, oh, but maybe we could do some more things. Maybe we can do this, that, and the other. And so like this is just a basic, like, you know, I don't even know if this thing works anymore. It's got errors. Actually, that shouldn't be a relative error. Let's see if this thing even works. Oh no, it's failing. Yeah, I think again, another thing I recommend doing is probably not using the same database for everything. Database project. So this is, I think this is connected to Supabase and it's the first go around. But I think because I'm using the same Supabase project, like I've overwritten and changed code or the schema. And so some of these old projects like are just broken. But this would, you know, you basically play it, you can adjust or take the volume down. And so it started there. Right. And this, the first prompt was here, a mood board, a description, a soundboard with stress relieving sounds that users can mix and match. Features sounds like rain, wind, birds, crackling fire, adjustable volume, each sound there, save mixes for quick access, right? And so that's kind of how this project started, and spent, you know, a significant amount of edits on this. We got into about let's see how many edits. Does this keep track here? Yeah. So about 40 edits. So this is roughly 40 messages, I guess, in terms of effort and limits and stuff spent on this project. So that was the start of it, right? And then you've got the second sort of version of that, which was then, all right, I think I either remixed it or couldn't really tell you exactly what I did. But this was like the second pass. This is the second attempt at making things happen. And you can see here, I went pretty deep with this one. This one is where I spent most of my messages on Lovable. This is 268 edits, I think, on this project. Yeah, 268 edits. So this one I went deep. Pretty deep, and then stuff started going sideways on me and I kind of abandoned it, right? So this one has user authentication. This one has some pre-built scenes. So I've got, you know, like these preset scenes. I was like, oh, it'd be cool. So it went from it spawned from the idea of a simple mood board sound machine to then, oh, let's create scenes, right? So I can have a forest, I can have an ocean, you know, with sound effects. Let's see, does this one work? No, they all break. Okay, so these projects, not as a result of Lovable, but as a result of my own sort of lack of organizational skills, broke previous projects. Again, something I need to get better at, because clearly I'd love to be able to revisit some of these and not have to rewrite the code or like fix them every time. So, but again, just finishing with what you could do here with this one is you can, you know, create any of these scenes, or you can go into them, or I could have preset ones and people can explore them. So it's like different mood boards, like a forest scene, you know, immerse yourself in peaceful sounds. And then I was having OpenAI sort of like construct these like sounds for these specific scenes. So I was calling them scenes. I had an ocean scene, a rainy day scene, a cafe scene, which had, you know, coffee machine, cafe chatter, cups clinking, stuff like that. Rain on windows, city ambience, and then you can have a master control. You could save the scene, and that's kind of that's how far I pushed this project. And then I think that came back to then the Lovable contest, because I think I was in the middle of this. And then there was a problem with the GitHub thing. The whole GitHub thing happened, where like GitHub kicked Lovable off or like shut down their integration. And so it just brought like Lovable to a halt. Like you just couldn't do anything for like a whole day, almost the whole day. It was like 16 hours or something like that. And then Lovable's like, got it fixed, they, connected with GitHub, they're in Sweden, GitHub I think is in San Francisco, something like that. Anyway, so it took a while to like close the gap and get it done. But once, both parties were aware of what was happening, I think it got resolved pretty quickly. Needless to say, they said, hey, free messages for the entirety of the weekend, right? And I was like, oh, free messages. I was like, all right, well, let's build something new, right? And so that then led to the current version of the Soundscape generator, right? And so again, started with the mood board, simple, pretty straightforward. Then it turned into V2, which I went pretty deep on in terms of scene exploration, creating scenes, the idea of creating saved scenes, presets, that kind of stuff. And now we're here. Now we're at the current incarnation, I guess, of the Soundscape generator. And so where I left off yesterday was with, where did we leave off? I didn't have scenes, so you couldn't save scenes. When you came here, you were just presented with two options, either to upload an image or generate with AI, right? So you had two options to create content, to create your soundscape. One of which was, like I said, is just sort of like click an image, find an image on your desktop. Let's try to use one that I haven't used in a while. Actually, the demo that I think I used yesterday was this one. So let's go back to Fire. Well, maybe not the best choice because Los Angeles is not coping with this situation very well at the moment. But since I already picked it, let's just go with it. Let's see. All right. So what happens then is, it uses vision. And I'm not going to sort of go back into it because I'm sure if somebody's watching these videos, they don't necessarily want to hear me repeat what's happening every step of the way. But you could watch previous live streams, and that's sort of the path, right? So I'm building and then explain what's going on. So image, it comes up with the title, description, and then suggests some sounds. And so this is kind of where I was at. I didn't have any scene saving options. And so now I have a scene saving option. I only had these two buttons, which was to create a new one or to remix the current one. Did not have a save option. So saving is new. Added that, and when you went to add sounds, so again, the idea here is you can play these sounds. Again, none of which exist at the moment. When you first load a scene, when you press play, it will then generate, I guess what Lovable referred to it as a soft or lazy loading technique, where when you press play, it's not actually associated with the file yet. It'll create a Roaring Flames file in real time. So you press play, it looks like it's buffering, but it's actually making the call to 11 Labs, it gets the sound, and then it plays it back. Previously, I had the descriptions here in these dropdowns. So in these dropdowns, I previously had the prompt that I was sending to 11 Labs as a visual cue for like users, so they kind of understand what the sound is about. I kind of want to bring that back. Right now, it's wrapped up in this sort of tooltip, but it's broken. I mean, you can see here, like it works, but it's like visually like busted. Like you can't read it. It's like hanging out behind like the components, and there's some layering issues and side panel issues, which I don't necessarily want to spend a lot of time on to fix right now because it's not mission critical, right? So I'm just thinking about these things, these core features that, I want to finish or I want to build or get done. But there's also some things that I still need to fix. And again, if I have this summary thing happening that I talked about before, where I can summarize these transcripts from these streams, then it will understand and it will make a note. Hey, you still need to fix this tooltip thing because it's still broken. So got that, but then I also added the ability to ditch sounds. So previously, when these sounds were created, these card tiles were created, you couldn't actually delete anything. Like, oh, you could add. So I had the ability to add a sound. Click here, you know, and then through some vector embedding of previous sounds, you know, like river running. You could search through the database and find sounds. So we've got rushing water, and then they should play. Yeah, so they play. So I didn't break that, thank goodness. And then you can add them. So, you know, I don't think we need rushing. Actually, let's add some rushing water, because I think in order to put the fire out, we should have some rushing water. All right, so now the card is over here. Rushing water, it's added, it works, it plays, you can hear it. All right, you can adjust the volume, do all the good things, right? Another thing I had issues with, honestly, with this setup is the playback states. So once I got into saving and loading scenes, like there was this whole other issue about resolving the play states, the volume states, like saving those persistent, like saving them in the database and then loading them. Like it was this whole thing. But I think I managed to get most of that sorted out. One keynote there was I was trying to fix it, and so I was like, look, this is happening. Like the volume isn't retaining when I load the scene. And then so this conversation that I was having with Lovable was like, okay, I think it's because of this. And this is usually what happens when you are prompting with Lovable. And it's like, okay, I think I know what it is. I see the issue. And then let me try this. And so it'll fix it. And then like you're like, oh, okay, cool. And then it does, you know, fix the one thing that you talked about. But then you realize that the other thing still isn't fixed with the playback mechanism, the playback functionality. Like it just, you know, things would play, but the volume wasn't at the right level, even though the slider was at the right place position-wise. And so if you were to do this traditionally, I can just imagine you'd spend so much time coding, like trying to fix these little bugs that I have... through this experience with Lovable, also much more fond, or what do you call that? Much more respect for people that traditionally, or still do, code just, you know, and squash these bug kind of things. Because probably another reason why I didn't get into this previously is because I don't have the patience. I don't think my patience would permit it to sort of, you know, the gains, the time you put in versus the gains that you get out, just the ROI isn't there. Like just the return on your investment of time is just not there. And so that's, again, one of the reasons why web dev or web development, just generally the space, you'd spend all this time, like a whole day, trying to fix one little bug, and then maybe you get it fixed and maybe you don't. And then it is so... what do you call that? Not disappointing, but demotivating, like just demoralizing. And so you do enough of that and you're like, I don't want to do this anymore. Like, I'm just done with it. I'm going to do something else. But with AI, going back to the original point, maybe not Lovable specific, but on that one specific bug, or the bugs with the playback, I was like, I got to this point where I was like, look, before you change something, can you look and see if there's any other... I think I used incongruencies with playback. Like, can you identify incongruencies or things that are inconsistent with the user experience? And then it went back. It's somewhere in my logs. Probably not worth scanning to go back on. But it then was like, yeah, I see all these other issues. And it came up with like 3 or 4 things. And it was like, all these other things, you know, are still sort of like not congruent with a traditional playback user experience for this kind of thing. And I'm like, all right, well, fix them. If they're not congruent, like, let's fix them. And so literally the guidance was, or the prompt was, implement the things to fix the, you know, playback functionality, not stepping through them one by one, right? So the thing is, you don't step through them one by one, or at least I didn't step through them. I instead was like, what else could be wrong with this thing, this playback? And can we fix it? And then it's like, yeah, do you want me to fix it? Fix it. And boom. And it resolved like probably 98, until I find more problems, which I'm sure I will. It resolved them all. You know, instead of me going through all of the problems, the bugs one by one, I was just like, look at this. This should play back. This is what I'm expecting. This is, you know, the traditional playback experience. Why aren't our sound cards doing that? Oh, well, based on the way that your code's configured and the way that, you know, this parameter is wrong and da-da-da-da. I'm like, all right, well, can you just fix it? So it fixed it. So now you can delete cards, right? So you can delete, you know, take these cards away, right? Delete them. Also, you can add them. So if I want to add this and I want to add this and I want to add this, you can do so. So now I have a whole bunch of different sound cards that you can add. So you can add cards, you can take them away. Also, I was complaining yesterday on the stream about this really ugly scroll bar that was in here. It looked like a Windows sort of, you know, traditional Windows gray 90s box style slider. And I was like, can we do something about that? And so it's like, yeah, let's just change. It's already baked into, I think, Tailwind. We could just use the Tailwind thing that's already in the package and just update that. And so, boom, now I have a nice, much nicer on the eyes scroll bar. All right, so now you can delete sounds, you can take them away. You got the tooltip, which still needs to be fixed. And then what else do we do? So from there, before we get into save scenes, I just want to, actually, no, let's talk about save scenes first. So if we go back out to the home page, we just go new. Now I've got save scenes. So users, registered users can build a scene just like we had with the fire, and then save it. And so these are some previously saved scenes about from yesterday. So what you could do is pop open a scene. This took some time to sort of figure out as well, because it was doing, when I first built out so you have to build out, you have to like sort of, again, plan on how you want to, what you want the user experience to be, right? And so I'm not gonna lie, I took some of this inspiration almost directly from the Lovable project page, right? So if you, the homepage for Lovable has this gallery below their main component about the kind of app you wanted to build. And I think it's very effective. I think it's a, you know, easy way to sort of manage projects. And so I was like, all right, let's build a gallery grid type thing for save scenes and let's put them here under this component. And so I say these, but like along the way, there's so many little hiccups. Like it created the grid, but then the background color was all wrong. Like it felt like a completely distinct, different section on the homepage. Whereas I wanted the whole particle effects to be flowing behind everything. And so you kind of have to deal with that, styling issues. But then in terms of functionality, it finally got it, you know, to a place where it would load these scenes. And at first it was loading the scenes and then it was reanalyzing the entire image, coming up with new sounds and all this stuff. And I was like, no, I don't need it to do that. I need the way that you save a scene. So if you come in here and like we go back to this Golden Valley Bridge and it's got sounds, right? So this has sounds. And if I adjust these settings, right? Even if they're playing, I want to come back, I want to be able to save it. So if we crank all these up, right? So if you saw the way the scene was saved, let's just go back to new. Let's not save this real quick. Let's just go back. So all these sliders, right? Let's just crank them all up, right? Crank them all up. And then let's just save the scene, right? So we'll save it. And it says Soundscape updated. Your Soundscape's been updated. Great. Let's go new. And then it'll be like edited less than a minute ago, right? And so then when you open it up, what I would expect to see is that all the volume sliders are where we just saved it, right? And so there you go, all the volumes back up. Now, the one thing I'm contemplating is whether I want autoplay enabled, you know, whether I want, you know, the sounds to play and all the previous states playing. Right now, just everything's kind of off. All the settings are the same though, but I think if you're gonna save a scene as a user, it's probably something that you want to jump back into, right? And maybe in the future you can just hop like, so check this out. So like if you're and this is where like the idea iteration stuff happens in my head anyways, is like, all right, so would it be cool as a user to come back here, right? And just think about like, not just my projects or not just my soundscapes, but anybody else that creates a public soundscape. And there could be like private, just like private and public projects on Lovable, there could be private and public soundscapes. But let's just say you want to like teleport to different places, right? Different soundscapes that people have, or atmospheres, or places that people have crafted and curated in terms of sounds. It would be cool if you can come back and just sort of like travel through them, like teleport from like soundscape to soundscape, and then the sounds are automatically playing like a radio station. And so in order for that to happen, though, I need to save all the states at which the scene was playing, and then I need a way to make sure that, of course, all the scene gets loaded the way that the creator intended. So the creator creates a soundscape, fine-tunes the mix, so like it's the most immersive experience ever, curated the best sound effects ever, created them from AI, whatever. And it's this like masterpiece of a soundscape, like it's just completely immersive. And I want other people to experience that, right? And so I think it'd be cool to have like, back in the day, there was a site called Stumble Upon, and it was like a random button. You could just like click it and it would take you to another website. Like it was just like all these like interesting websites. And I was like, this is the most basic but cool like thing ever. And so I want similar, stumble upon a soundscape or like teleport through categories. Like if you want nature stuff, you can just jump from like one soundscape to another. So I can go from Golden Valley Bridge to, Golden Valley Bridge to a haunted manor, to a vibrant evening market, right? And then if I jump in there, I want it to come to life automatically. And so if it's paused, like I don't want users to have to like sit there and like figure out what sounds they should be playing. I think it's up to the creator of the soundscape to determine the experience that they want other people to have when they get there. And sure, as a user, maybe you're inspired by the scene and you want to like remix it yourself or fork it, in I guess developer language, fork it and then make it your own. I do have a remix scene option down here. It might be broken at the moment because I've sort of detracted away from the ability for users to remix stuff. And again, something I'll have to revisit, but that's the grander picture. Sort of creators should create a soundscape for their own, maybe their own personal taste, memory of a place. They create it, but then they can still share it, or other people can experience it the way that they had originally configured it. So I got to go back and figure out how the best way to handle the user experience in terms of like the autoplay. I think it's pretty straightforward. I'll just have like the sounds play. Like, so if the mix is, these sound cards are on and they're playing, then when it gets loaded, then that's what plays. Or maybe if on the public facing version, like only the sounds that are enabled play, or maybe there's no controls at all, right? So maybe that's an option. Maybe like, maybe there's no controls like for the user. But if the user wants to remix it or pull it down or use it as inspiration, they can pull it down into their own gallery, their own scenes, and then have access to the sounds, or at least the ability to change them or whatever. But if you're just on the front end, a user who just wants to experience it, you don't necessarily need to dink with the settings. You expect that the creator of the soundscape would already have that like set up for you. So anyways, that's a huge, wild tangent. But the things that I think of when I'm building this project, and again, one of the reasons why I think this project will keep me sort of keep my attention, if you will, as opposed to the next shiny object, the next shiny app, the next shiny project, whatever. Like, this has enough depth for me to, I think, sustain it for a while. Plus, I think I love sound. I love field recording. I love microphones. I've had, a mini disc recorder with a mic, and, I was going out and recording airport sounds and just random street sounds. So I've always had I've never done it as a profession, but I've always had an interest in sound design. So the passion for the project is there. The depth is there. And these are things that I can actually bring to life with Lovable. Unlike any other tool that I've ever sort of tried to bring ideas to life before. Like, it would just take too long. Like I said, return on my time in terms of my return on time investment. So ROI, but as a return on investment of time, just was never there. But with something like Lovable, it's there. Like I can just sort of think about it, translate it, put it into Lovable. It understands kind of what I'm thinking, and then it builds it. And it's just like, it's the coolest thing I've seen in a long time. And, you know, technology is advancing so much that there's a lot of cool things happening in a lot of different spaces, but this is where I want to spend my time these days, or spare time, should I say. Okay, let's wrap it up because we're about 10 minutes to the top of the hour. I'm trying to keep these streams under an hour or around an hour. More features. Oh, so then where I left this off yesterday was, but previously I only had the search feature. So if you needed market street sounds, you know, and these are all, again, vector embedded. So I'm using OpenAI to embed the vectors so that it can find, so that when I do the search utility based on similarity, it can find these. I keep getting these. No, maybe I shouldn't have. So based on similarity, you have these scores for the search results. Again, something that we don't need to get into. I discussed it on previous streams. But this is the only feature I had was just sound. So, you know, if you wanted whatever the sound was, urban hum, you could add it to your scene, and then you've got urban hum. You got two urban hums. So you got a whole lot of humming going on. So we'll just talk about what I've added. So I thought, oh, okay, so what if, because some of these sound effects, they don't come back quite right from 11 Labs, whether it's through the prompt. I'm still trying to figure out if it's prompting that I need to fix or if it's something else to get more consistent results from 11 Labs in terms of like the quality of the sound effect. Because most of the stuff at least on the initial scene analysis it can be like 50-50, honestly, whether you get something usable or just not usable. And I'm trying to get a higher ratio. I'm trying to improve the ratio of results that I get in terms of quality results from 11 Labs. And I think a lot of it's going to come down to prompting. And I haven't prompted enough with 11 Labs to know, especially with the text, well, either of their engines, whether you're using the text to voice or text to effects. I'm using the text to sound effects. And so I'm not sure. There's a few different levels of granularity that you can control on the endpoint, which is just time. And then the other one is like variation. So if you want something that sounds completely different or similar-ish, there's a scale that you can set in terms of a number. But really that's it. And so I think beyond that, it's just the prompt. So playing with prompts. And as a result of this, well, I wanted users to be able to add either sounds from the catalog that have already been generated. So anybody that creates a soundscape, sound gets, you know, stored, it gets embedded, it's in the search catalog, somebody can search it. But, you know, when you play these, like some of these are better than others. Some of them don't sound anything like what they should, that kind of thing. So I was like, what if nobody finds the result that they're looking for? I was like, I want them to be able to generate a sound. Yeah, why not? I mean, yeah, more sounds the merrier. The more good sounds, the better. Like the more curated, cool sounds, the more immersive the soundscapes. I think that's going to make the whole project move. Like if you have crappy sounds, like you build crappy soundscapes, right? So I need good sounds. So I'm trying to improve the efficiency there with sounds. And so you can describe the sound that you want now. So I hooked this up to, because what I wanted to do, and this one is an example of what I don't want to do, is, you know, how do you transform the prompt or the sound that somebody's going to describe? You know, so if you want to have a user describe the sound that you want, they're going to type who knows what in this box, right? I'll type one thing. If I think of a sound and I'm thinking about how to craft it, somebody else will type something else. And so I don't need in terms of the database, I don't need like to have just a bunch of random like strings of people's whatever they were thinking, right? I want to be able to translate that into a way that it can be identified. The core of the sound can be identified, and then it can have a description that we then send to 11 Labs as the prompt, right? And so passing it first through OpenAI and prompting it to then say, hey, take this user description of what they want to hear, come up with a short label for the search results, like a 2 or 3 word label for it, and then craft a prompt for 11 Labs, right? And so just got this going, but so far the sounds that I'm getting back from the generated version of the sounds is much better than the initial sort of shorter prompts that I'm using on the scene analysis, on the first scene analysis. So again, I'll have to play with this, but let's think of a sound that we can generate. Coffee, slurping, let's just do something like slurping, you know, because we're AI coding in coffee. Slurping coffee while intermittently, let's say intermittently. So this is how I would describe it. Intermittently, let's see, we can even misspell it. So like, maybe I spelled it right. Intermittently slurping coffee while typing away on the keyboard. Right, so say we have some sort of office setting environment, and that's the sound we're looking for. Somebody sipping coffee while clacking away on the keyboard, right? So we'll click generate a sound. This one actually has, it's using the Shade CN, like status update. I'm hearing like my dog, but I thought that was the sound effect. So it's going to generate it. Says it's generating. All right. And so the sound, it called it coffee slurp typing, right? So maybe not the best name, but that's again how AI interpreted that, right? So it's going to label it. That's just the label. So it's labeling. It's, you know, for identification purposes in the catalog. If somebody's searching for coffee typing slurping sounds, you know, it'll show up. Again, I don't need a similarity score here because this is taken from the search interface that I built, and so that can probably go away. But then we can see the actual prompt. So that one sentence that I wrote was whatever, intermittently slurping coffee while typing away on a keyboard. Then the prompt that was used was actually a rhythmic soundscape featuring intermittent slurping of coffee combined with the soft tactile clicks and clacks of a keyboard typing. And so this is why I said like these prompts are way more detailed than what I'm originally sending to 11 Labs with the scene analysis. And so I'm seeing so far, again, quite a bit of discrepancy between the quality versus sound effects generated here versus sound effects generated from my basic prompts. So I'm gonna call this a detailed prompt, and then previously I'm using basic prompts. And the problem I had with the basic prompts was it was that 50-50, like it could sound good or it could sound like garbage. I still don't know if this one's gonna sound good or like garbage, but let's find out. So let's just finish here. So it's got things like frequency, it's got time, it's got pace. You know, if you look at this prompt, it's very detailed. It's like a rhythmic soundscape featuring intermittent slurping of coffee combined with the soft tactile clicks and clacks of keyboard typing. Slurps range from 60 to 70 dB, so it's got decibel like volume settings for the specific layers of the sound, occurring every 5 to 10 seconds with slight variations in volume and tone based on a cup depth and sipping technique, juxtaposed against the consistent percussive typing sounds at approximately 50 to 65 dB. All right, so then you've got coffee slurps that are a little bit louder than typing at 50 to 60. All right, let's see what this actually sounds like. I'm gonna mute my mic so we can focus all of our time and effort and energy on this sound effect. Okay, not bad. It's a little too repetitive and almost sounds like a beat. But it could be a useful sound effect for something else. All right, let's do one more. Let's do what else would be involved with Let's just do keyboard, typing on a keyboard. Aggressively. All right, so let's generate that sound. And then we'll finish up. We'll wrap it up with that because that's basically where I'm at right now. Oh, and a quick note about this. So some things that you think are going to be easy are not. So originally I was like, let's build this into the search interface. I want to be able to, users should be able to generate their own sounds. So let's use the existing add sounds dialog window. Let's build out the allow users to either search for sounds or generate their own. And so there's some UI issues here, namely with visibility. Like it's really hard for me even to see this dialog box. Like right here, this is completely like unusable. So there's a lot of like visual stuff that needs to be patched and fixed still. But my main thing was, can we get the prompt engine working? Can we send this to load? Can we get the sound back? Can it play? Can we add it to the scene? Those are the core things that I wanted it to work. So that's where we're at. It generated a new sound for this one. It's called aggressive keyboard typing. And then the prompt that was sent to 11 Labs, a rapid and forcible typing sound produced by fingers striking mechanical keys with high velocity, generating percussive clicks at approximately 80 to 90 dB, which should be louder. So it's got the volume setting. And again, I don't know if 11 Labs actually adheres to these thresholds that we're setting. So like in this case, it's like 80 to 90 dB, whereas like in the previous one, it was lower. It was like 50 to 60 dB. So this should be louder, it should be more audible. The sound features a combination of sharp staccato bursts and resonant key travel noises with occasional finger drag and muted thuds from the palm hitting the desk surface. Okay, that's pretty good. I mean, those are things that I don't think you would think of as a user. Maybe you don't want that kind of complexity to your sound. But I do think it makes for a really compelling like component of a scene that's themed. Like it's a highly themed, sort of closely, like these sounds are very, they go together, right? Typing thuds of a sound on the, like, otherwise you could create separate thudding of your palms, but do you really want to go through that, or do you just want to add this component and then it less other sounds you have to mix? I don't know, but we'll find out. So it's embedding it. Oh, and again, just in terms of the pathway here, just to finish off on the previous thought, before we started talking about the prompt, what happens and what path was happening here. So had to name it, had to come up with a description, had to store it. And then the problem was it wasn't writing to the database correctly, and it turns out we used a completely separate edge function, and then we were running two like independent paths. So on the image analysis, when it goes to create it was kicking it off to 11 Labs, and then this was then kicking off a call to 11 Labs. But then when it was coming back, it was also coming back down two different paths. And I'm like, I don't need to treat the sound from 11 Labs differently when it comes back. I need it to be the same path. But when I was trying to configure this add sound module and generate AI sounds, it built out a whole completely different flow all the way through, up, and then back from 11 Labs. And so what I wanted it to do instead was treat the sound file the exact same way coming back from 11 Labs. So the two, before it gets there, the prompt sequences can be different. I understand we need to do scene analysis differently than individual sounds. But once it gets to 11 Labs, I needed it to come back the same way. And so had to fix that. And did, but here we got the forceful typing. All right, let's just see what this sounds like. Okay, I really like that effect, honestly. Let's just add it and let's see if I can crank the volume on it. See that though? There's some artifacts. Like, you can't have AI without hallucinations, right? So at the very end of that clip, there was like a blip and it's like an artifact. It's almost like somebody talking. So it was like 90. It was really good till the very end. And so that's again something that through maybe some editing features, some post-processing utility that I'll need to address. Like, I think users, when they create these soundscapes, should have the ability to edit the sound. So if they need to clip that last part, they need to clip it because it's not necessary. Or if they need to crossfade it or ramp it or ramp the volume or loop it or whatever to make it more seamless, I still think that there needs to be some way to edit the sounds. And I don't know, again, these are all the things that I'll be pushing with Lovable to see if these are things that we can actually do. I don't know if it can be done. I don't know how well it can be done. I don't know what the technical limitations are. AI always seems to to compel me into doing it. It's like, can we do this? And it's like, yeah, we could do that. Totally do that. And it doesn't matter how complicated the thing is. It's like, yeah, I can totally do it. And I'm like, really? But in reality, it could be completely different. So that's what we'll work on later. But that's where we're at. So we can save the scenes, we can add sounds, we can update the scenes, and then they come back into this gallery. So the sounds get embedded. So that last aggressive typing thing, even if I wanted to add it to the haunting mainer, it should now be in the database. So aggressive typing. So if I'm looking to add somebody in the mainer is aggressively typing, there they go. They can, be typing away in the haunted mainer kind of thing. So it automatically gets embedded, vectorized, or OpenAI text embedding small, gets embedded, gets added to the database. So it's available kind of immediately for any scene. So any user that creates the thing can find the typing sound note that anybody just created, or that I created, or potentially any other user created. So it's a self-building like database of sounds, which, like I said, will need to be curated at some point because some of them will be good, some will be bad. I'm either going to implement some sort of rating feature or some sort of like user tools to edit the sounds, or ways for it to be curated or favorited. Stuff like that. That's probably the most straightforward way to do it. I think when I was first starting with Midjourney, one of the things, the user features that they had was it was kind of like you get credits, I think, or maybe you get something if you rated the images that were coming back from Midjourney. I haven't used Midjourney in a long time, but when I first got started with it, it was kind of like there was an option for you as a user to, as part of the community, to curate the images, like good, bad, or they, whatever. And you got some sort of like incentive to do that. I almost think that I need something similar here. Like, because again, I think if the sounds are right, the soundscapes will be right. And more people will be likely, it's more likely then that people will use it, come back to it, and make more soundscapes. And so I need to be that to be like a self-fulfilling thing. People create more sounds, the catalog gets bigger, more good sounds get created, and then we can curate the catalog of good sounds. So that's what I'm thinking. Anyways, that's what's going on in my head. That's it for today. Again, if you need to find me, you can find me on X, Gray's Reality, on here. If you haven't already subscribed, talking about Lovable, probably for the foreseeable future, continuing with this project, updates, other projects with AI coding specifically, and yeah, subscribe if you haven't already. Ask me, leave a comment below, catch up with me on X. All right, till the next one. See you. Stay away from the haunted manor.